Hey guys, today's YouTube video is going to be about Vatira, and the reason why is because of something that Roldiz said on First Touch, and so that I don't misquote it, I'm going to just play the clip of what he said here.
You don't have Vatira in that list?
No, when Vatira is scared of another player, he cannot be in there. He is intimidated, he is terrified. And then he was invisible during the series. Like, I can't watch a series and not know if Vatira is even playing. He wasn't even on the field against Vitality. It was Itachi. Itachi's like doing everything. He said, help me.
Now, I know I broke up that Zen air dribble with a clip of Roldiz, but what Roldiz was saying was that he does not have Vatira in his top 5 players because he was scared of Vitality, and also because in the Vitality series, he did not perform. So today, in fact, I think in his words, he said he was invisible. So we're going to watch from Vatira's perspective in a couple games from the bracket reset of the grand final and try and decide if Vatira was invisible or not. Now, I've decided to pick 2 games that KC lost because I figured that would probably do the best of making Roldiz's point, not picking a game where their team did happen to win. Now, they won Game 2 and Game 4. Now, Game 2, I'll admit, I checked out the replay, and Exotic and Itachi did most of the scoring all on their own without going through the whole replay and making sure that, you know, Vatira's contribution wasn't potentially more. It did look like Exotic and Itachi, or specifically Itachi, who he calls out, did play well. But in Game 4 that they won, Vatira had a big hand in both goals. One was, of course, Radosin's own goal that Vatira had just gotten a demo right before, which you could argue forced it, and then was very involved in the other goal, even though he wasn't the one to score it. I think Exotic was. You certainly wouldn't look at that game and say Vatira was invisible. So instead, we'll check out a couple different games that Vatira played and see if he's invisible. And the reason why I feel we need to check this out is because, to me, saying Vatira is not top 5 is a crazy claim. For the longest time, he has been the #1 player in the world in everybody's eyes. Recently, maybe Zen has taken over that spot, or maybe I think that's kind of the only person you can, because it's the only team consistently winning. It's hard to make an argument for, say, like First Killer over in NA when FaZe hasn't won yet. When Version 1 and Complexity both won, they weren't as consistent. But either way, to me, Vatira was still at #1, so I thought it was a very interesting claim. His team did still make the grand finals of the most recent regional. And to be fair, what we're doing right here and now is a lot easier than what Roldiz has to do. Anybody who is willing to have a take on a show like this, I am grateful for it, because it is so much harder to give live takes and have opinions than to go back after someone's already made an opinion and look to see if they were correct. So shout out to Roldiz and the rest of them. But as you can see, Vatira in this loss having a lot of influence. Has the first goal for his team, a complete solo play where he outplayed just about everybody. And the reason why I wanted to pull these replays up is because we actually happened to watch party this series live. So if you guys remember, a lot of us were there watching, and I feel like maybe slightly rooting for Zen and the magic that comes along with the new player winning 2 regionals. And you never forget a player who's the thorn in your side. When you're watching, you're never more aware of the other team's best player than when you want them to, you know, not perform. And the reality is, Vatira was performing. You can see he gets a save. Honestly, it's mostly off of 54, going for a pretty risky 50, a fake without anybody back. Maybe he's expecting a teammate to be back for him, but you don't want to go for that kind of fake if you're the last one in the line of defense. And in this case, he was, after Vatira dunked him and won the race to the other side of the field. So Vatira has his team tied up, and I would say has heavy involvement in this goal as well. Now has his team up 3-2 with 2 minutes left to go. Now, I think, luckily for us, the claims that we're trying to show aren't true are easy to disprove because the words that were used were invisible. So we don't even have to necessarily argue that he's the best player on the team. We just have to convince everybody that he wasn't invisible, which so far in the first few minutes that we've watched, I hope you have been convinced. But we'll continue to watch this one, and we have one more game as well, just talking a bit about what Vatira is doing on the field for his team. A little bit of decision making. It does seem like you guys really enjoy these RLCS looks through a single player's eyes, and I've been enjoying making them. So let's continue to see what happens here with Vatira with 1:33 left on the clock right now. Not a ton of boosts to work with, but still cheating at field in hopes that Itachi can get the ball to him. deciding not to transition to the back wall. As he recognized, that's a great recovery though, half flipping out of his net to get into position. Itachi's not going to be able to force through on Radosin. We've watched these replays from a couple different angles now, having checked out Zen and Radosin. Now we're looking at Vatira. These EU regionals are just on another level. Worth studying as the rest of the world tries to catch up devastatingly. NA lost CRL as well. I thought CRL was our thing. That, in case you guys didn't know, a couple days ago, we lost CRL as well. We're losing it all to EU. And specifically, this guy Vatira, and that's why I'm so keen to show just how much of a thorn in North America's side he can be. With 30 seconds left to go, his squad is up. As Exotic launches the ball at Alpha, Vatira cannot get any boosts, so I'm sure he's coming to his team. I've got all the way back. Don't worry about me. I'll be waiting around here until 100 happens to spawn. Able to stop the long clear. But this is a big miss. Now, admittedly, if you want to say he's invisible, this could be your moment. That was an opportunity to get a big save, and instead goes flying by. And now, Vitality all tied up. 0-second opportunity. I think it's a good decision from Vatira to actually not go for the ball on 0. Exotic does decide to keep it up, but ultimately hits the ground. I think Vatira was really recognizing that a last-second situation is better when you have boost to work with, and would rather hit the ground when he doesn't. Overtime in this game number 3. Zen trying to pop off like crazy, and actually does. It's the reason why they score. Now, to be fair, in defense of first touch bar underneath their talking, if you guys saw that, was that Zen plus 4 people is the right answer for top 5, and I think that's true. The more I watch these replays, the more I recognize just how involved Zen is. But we're going to go to a second replay of Vatira and a loss for KC to see if he was truly invisible. Game 5 of KC versus Vitality. It should be noted that this is after KC won a series and forced a bracket reset, but I'm assuming that the slander on Vatira's name was not coming from what I believe was a dominant win, like a 4-1 win for KC in order to force the bracket reset. And instead, I'm assuming it comes from the second series in which he wasn't able to perform, or maybe you could argue in the winners finals series that they played, in which KC did also lose. I think they might have even been swept. So you could argue that that was also part of Roldiz's arguments. But we'll see what Vatira's influence is over this crucial game. Right now, tied with Vitality. A very crucial which way will the series head type game. Vatira's going to go entire distance to the field, get a reset, try and force a 50, gets Zen to miss, and Exotic taps this one in. So Vatira, a heavy hand in scoring, as they now have 4 minutes to try and hold on to this 1-goal lead. Not the best of 50s for Vatira. Let's go back and look at this real quick. I just want to see this one again. I want to see what Vatira could have done differently. Here's him scoring. And then on the kickoff, it seems like their team intentionally loses into the back corner, which almost seems like what he wants. But yeah, Zen just gets a really favorable 50. Zen certainly proving to have the advantage over Vatira there. If that was their strategy, they need to work on it a little bit in order to make sure they can get out of this half. Vatira has to side flip, dodge the potential demo. He's going to have an easy clear now. Looking to play it straight vertically as a way to try and play it to himself and guarantee that he's relevant for the second 50 as opposed to trying to just boom it downfield. I think you'll see a lot of players probably in your own ranked games who in that position with full boost will just slam it to the other side of the field. But if you're able to control it, it's much better to make sure that somebody on your team, and that could be yourself, is the one to follow up your own touch. Vatira leaving that back corner boost as well. I wonder if he's leaving it for Exotic, as he had to almost avert out of the way. Zen's going to drop this down. Exotic pre-jumped over Zen's dribble. We've seen this replay before, I believe, from other perspectives. And Vatira wide rotation. Didn't think he needed to worry about that quick of a shot. So it's not back in time. Here's another miss for Vatira. Itachi and Exotic looking to try and pass in field. Recognition from Vatira that as last back he cannot afford to go 50 with Zen. That neither Itachi nor Exotic had any boost to work with, which means he has to be that release in case it's needed. Challenging now. Take the ball away from Radosin. Now that's kind of the opposite mentality you see there. As he recognizes he's front man, he can go for a little bit of a risky challenge that has very low chance of working out, but still probably the best play for him to make instead of just putting yet another body camped on the back wall, assuming he doesn't go for it. Tira now trying to play quickly because he feels the pressure of the approaching Alpha 54. Still not able to escape the demo. Swinging wide away from the play as he has both his teammates working to try and score, doing his best to reposition. He's floating behind this ball. Maybe he convinced a shot attempt out of Vitality. Team pinch often in this game is left to be the last back. Now is forced to try and 50 with Alpha. Neutral 50, I'd say, as it screams directly towards the side wall. Vatira in net. Forced to play that last back, and I feel like we've seen him play that final position on Moist. I want to say he was often playing in net or was given defensive MVP. I wouldn't say he's necessarily playing in net, but certainly the last back for his team. And I feel like he hasn't been that way on KC as much, but clear in this game that he has resumed that role. He is really an all-around player. We're mostly watching this because I need to assess whether or not I'm wrong and continuing to keep Vatira in my top 5. So far, I haven't quite been convinced to take him out. But right now, his team is down with a minute left to go. Demoed forces him back up early before Radosin can get in the air. This is a great pre-flip into a 50. Can't get the final bump that he would have needed to outplay basically the entire team. Instead, the rotations start again. Getting a bit desperate now with under a minute left to go. I think KC just starting to throw more at the net, and it's really hard to blame Vatira. I mean, you could decide which way you want to take this one. You could say Vatira threw for them because he probably shouldn't have been as aggressive as he was, but you could also sit back, go for regular rotations in net, and guarantee that his team loses by 1. So, tough to say, but definitely his change in attitude there after being forced to be back all game long. Finally takes a risk. They do get scored on. And now with 15 seconds left to go, his team surely not going to bring it back. So I don't know. I wanted to go look at a couple games from Vatira because I remember watching thinking Vatira was the bane of Vitality's existence in this series whenever they were able to get goals. But you guys can decide for yourselves. Do you guys agree with Roldiz that Vatira was invisible? He did admit to being scared, and I think that's mostly what Roldiz was getting him on about, or getting on him about, because they were playing scared against Vitality the first time around. But I'm not one to give up on Vatira so quickly. I think I'd still have him in my top 5. In fact, I think I mentioned it before, that if I was creating a super team, I know that it would include this guy right here, Zen, and this guy over here, the proven winner. I'm not ready to take him out, Vatira, and I don't know who else I'd have in just yet, but maybe I'll make a video on that sometime. Anyways, this was Vatira in the grand finals. If you ask me, he was not invisible, but you guys can pick for yourselves.